Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is my July wrap up. Yeah, forgetting what month we're in. Sorry if there is a glare in my glasses. I'm sitting in front of a window. I'm not really feeling so well today. I woke up with some vertigo and I've never really had that before. But I definitely am having some dizziness and not wanting to move my head around a whole lot, and I'm wondering if maybe wearing my glasses will help with that, so I'm trying to keep them on today. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get started with what I read in July. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the harrowing horror pick for June from Cammie's Corner. I read the majority of that book in June, but I didn't finish it until a few days into July, so I had already filmed my June wrap up. So I'm going to include that book in my July wrap-up, and that is The Edge of Dark Water by Jo R. Lansdale. And that was a pretty good book. I enjoyed that one. It was set in East Texas, and it was about a girl who had died, and when her body was found, her friends wanted to cremate her, and they wanted to take her ashes to Hollywood because that's where she always wanted to go. So it's like a coming of age adventure thriller story, but it was good. It was very well written. I enjoyed the writing a lot, and I will probably pick up more from Jo R. Lansdale in the future. But yep, that is the first book that I finished in July. Then I went on to Under the Banner of Heaven by Jon Krakauer. That was the crime scene pick for Cammie's Corners and Joni Reed's channel. Every other month they put together a live show based off of a true crime book, and this was the pick. I liked this one a lot. This one was about a murder that happened, I want to say in the 80s, and it was done by some fanatical Mormons, and it went deep into the history of Mormonism, and I loved all of that. I truly love historical nonfiction. I am interested in just about anything. I thought I knew a lot about the Mormon religion. Where I used to live, there's a large Mormon population, and I was friends with some Mormons, and so I thought I knew things. Plus I watch all the Seeking Sister Wives reality shows. I really did not know anything about the history of it, and I found this book incredibly fascinating. I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely be reading more by Jon Krakauer in the future. So next I read The Montauk Monster by Hunter Shea. I already did a review for this book, but if you don't feel like watching that video, I truly loved this book. This book was so fast-paced, full of adventure, full of crazy, gory kills. There were monsters. I just loved it. It was fantastic. I definitely will be reading probably everything by Hunter Shea in the future, even though I've only read this one book by him. If his other books are anything like this, I know he's going to be one of my favorites. I'm going to stop gushing now. Let's move on. Next I picked up Recursion, and this was my most anticipated read of the year. I normally don't pay a whole lot of attention to new releases because I do so much book shopping at the used bookstore. I just kind of get into whatever I pick up there. But this one was definitely on my radar because I read the Pines trilogy and Dark Matter recently and absolutely was blown away by those books. Yeah, I got this one on Audible, and this was actually, sadly to say, the only book I've ever returned to Audible. I listened to it to 60%, and I was pretty miserable listening to it. I was dreading it. Every time I would think, oh, you know, I should probably be listening to this book. I need to finish it. I just would talk myself out of it because I just was not enjoying it at all. It's science fiction, and the science of it, or the science in it, I just could not get behind the science and how it was being explained. It did not make any sense to me. And I know there are a lot of concepts in science fiction that aren't real, but I'm still able to get past that and still find the stories believable in a way. But this one I just could not believe at all. feel like you definitely need a giant whiteboard and be able to take notes and draw lines and maybe maps and all that kind of stuff to try to figure out what the heck is going on. It was just very much over my head, and it felt more like a textbook than something fun to read. But because it was Blake Crouch and I'm such a fan, I kept pushing through. But then I saw Mariana from Impression Blend talk about how she felt about this book, and she wasn't loving it either. And I commented on her video saying, yeah, I might DNF this one. I'm pretty miserable reading it. And then she said something like, life is too short to read a book you're not into. So I kind of felt like maybe she was telling me on the down low that it wasn't that great at the end. And so I just went ahead and DNF'd it and moved on. There is a very small handful of people that don't like that book, so I would not say not to read it. I'd say check it out for yourself and see what you think, because I know it's well loved. But yeah, I'm gonna move on. Then I read I Call Upon Thee by Anya Allborn. How do you say her name? Allborn. This one was for the Bloody Beach read-along. I can't think straight today. But yeah, I read Kill River, which is another book for the Bloody Beach readathon. I read that in June, so I wasn't going to reread it in July, although I loved it. I just wasn't going to reread it in July. But I did read I Call Upon Thee. This is, how do you describe this? It's a novella and a ghost demon story that features a creepy doll and a lot of family drama. There's a lot in this book for a novella, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really creepy. There was a lot of tension, and I liked the main character a lot. But anyway, I really did like the book. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I will read more from that author in the future. Okay, so lastly, I read Lightning by Dean Koontz. This was the Harrowing Horror book club pick for this month. I like this one a lot. This is time travel, sci-fi time travel, thriller, a little bit of mystery, some weird twists in it. But I really did like this. This one I kind of feel has a similar vibe to Recursion, but I like this one more than Recursion. I understood the science in this, and the way things worked made a whole lot more sense to me, and it was easier to consume this than Recursion. It's basically about a girl who has a secret guardian who comes into her life at different times to protect her from certain things. Kind of reminds me of The Time Traveler's Wife and Terminator. If you mix those two things together, and then you add in another element that I'm not going to say because that would be a spoiler. But yeah, I really like The Time Traveler's Wife and The Terminator and time travel, and I feel like this was done very well. I think it was well written too. It wasn't too cheesy. I really like this one. So yeah, I'm glad that I picked this up. I probably wouldn't have read it if I saw it like on the shelf at the store. I probably wouldn't have picked it up, but I'm glad I did. I am a little surprised that it's on the top 100 horror list, because I didn't really get any horror aspects out of this. I definitely would put it more in sci-fi thriller, but you know, I'm really confused with the whole like categorizing of things. Sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me how certain things get put into certain genres, but maybe I just don't know enough about how it works. But anyway, those are all the books that I read in July. All in all, it's a pretty good month. Pretty satisfied with what I got to. Have you guys read any of these books? Especially Recursion. I would love to know if you've read Recursion and what your thoughts on it were. Yeah, I would like to talk more about that. But yeah, I hope y'all had a great July, and I will see y'all later. Bye.